growth, which is always a factor of how finance team works closely with the business team to drive those growth. Big shift is that, if there is you have a long-term plan, you can start taking tactical actions right now, right here in this current year to move towards the direction of those 3-year plan.
So that's really interesting that I have heard, right? So this is a learning for me. Can you just give through an example? What is this top line protection plan?
Yeah. I don't want to be a speed breaker, but let me put the guardrails around that one. Partnership is not a pill which you eat and then you getting tomorrow.
Instead of working on technical aspect, what analytical software you need to put, you need to really put the emotional software first. The cost of healthcare in India is growing, right? And sometimes it is also, come to a point that it is probably not affordable. What is your view on AI and its impact on the business as well as finance? Welcome to Stories Behind the Numbers. Here, we meet and discuss with leaders who have built business and create enormous value to their stakeholders. We would explore with them the decisions that they make with their operating managers, management committee, and in the board. We'll also understand how they build their teams, lead their teams, and manage their teams for effectively achieving the goals. So today we have a seasoned finance professional and who have more than 25 years of experience, having worked in established businesses, Indian MNCs as well as foreign MNCs, and now leading a PE-backed firm, Mr. Sandeep Bardia. I am very happy to welcome him to this particular show. Welcome, Mr. Sandeep.
Hi, Guru. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and share my experience and thoughts with everyone.
Excellent. Thanks, Sandeep. First of all, when I look at your career, which is really amazing, you worked with some really excellent companies. So there are companies which are very established, extremely global and very large. And there are also companies where you are building brick by brick and making them to grow at a breakneck speed. So what is the difference that you see in your leadership style, in your management, in both these established businesses as well as the startup kind of fast-growing companies?
Thanks. Pretty interesting question. See, in an established business or a mature business, when you're working as a finance professional or even any professional, the first and foremost thing, a lot of back-end processes, systems are well in place. Okay, a lot of things are already there. You need to come and start adding value, start identifying areas of opportunity of value addition. Like, for example, if I were to give an example in the case of my experience with Asian Paints, HDFC Life Insurance, even with Novartis, they're fairly mature organizations where things and processes are set up. Once you start bringing in, your specific roles and responsibility, how do you start focusing on them, putting value-added activities? How do you focus on, say, risk management? How do you focus on forecasting accuracy? Bringing predictability on the business. Per se, that's one very big difference in a big starking difference between this between a mature and a startup organization. In a startup organization, it's a fast-growing setup. You will have to take a step as a builder, as an enabler. You may have to start looking at building the processes from the scratch. Teams are fairly new. You need to really see how they are getting, I would say, understanding of the business. You need to keep on providing a very proactive approach of entrepreneurship. You need to be very proactive in terms of your So what I was saying, in case of a new age organization, startup, fast growing setup, the biggest and most important, I would say, challenge for a finance person is the processes are not really set up. You need to be coming over there first is to set up the process. Business is in a very nascent stage.
Mm.
Agility required is pretty high. Need to be very proactive in terms of identifying what can go wrong, what can be the consequence, and start putting, I would say, guardrails or controls or systems around that one. So those play a very important role, which otherwise in the case of mature organization is always present. It's over years of evolution which has made it the way it is. So in such kind of organization, speed becomes very critical, and finance cannot be a bottleneck. It needs to be an enabler. It needs to ensure that there is a enough support given to all the business team to drive those growth. So this becomes a very important and stark differentiator. Uh, the mindset is quite different in a mature organization, in a startup kind of organization. So in a mature organization, you the as I said, processes are set up completely. You need to look at incremental areas of opportunity. Well, there is a uh, growth, which is always a factor of how finance team works closely with the business team to drive those growth. One thing which is very common between both organizations, okay,
Mm.
which is,
Mm.
when we say talk of agility, speed,
Yeah.
processes, etc.,
Mm.
business partnering continues to be the same. It cannot be, I would say, it has to be the same in both the cases. The intent, involvement may differ a bit, uh, but that becomes a most important one. And resource allocation, because in both the cases, resources are always limited. How do you identify margin improvement opportunities? How do you look at funding the growth? How do you preserve capital in both the cases? That remains the same. Just that speed, processes, those things make a lot of difference. Team becomes very important in both the cases. And in the case of startup, the team is just evolving. New members are joining in place. How do you groom them? How do you train them? In case of startup, if you're not there, sometimes you feel that things can come to a standstill.
Mhm.
In the case of a mature organization, if you are not there for a few days, also things will move on as it is.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of difference. It's very
Excellent.
interesting to work in both the spheres of life.
Yeah.
Just I'll add a point over there. If you worked in a mature organization, sometimes you know how a new startup should look like. So you start
Mm.
preparing that organization for that kind of a milestone. So if you worked in a mature organization, then come to a startup, it really helps you to start preparing the foundation for that big leap when it is ready to leap. That's one important element which comes for me, especially when I have come from those organizations setting things over here. How do we make our organization future ready? How do we set processes, people, uh, work with the business teams to drive those, vision. That's
That's really profound. What you are summarizing is while there are lots of differences, the growth phase startup, a hyper growth startup, they are really aiming to achieve what an established player would look like in many of the aspects. Right. So that's really profound. I think I'll pick up from there. So you said one of the things similar is really how do you allocate capital, right? As a CFO, you are going to lead the organization both, how the next 12 month would look like, as well as how the next 3 year would look like. So therefore, you are going to help in setting up the annual operating plan as well as a 3 year short range plan. Tell us, how do you, as a CFO, lead this activity?
So, most important thing is that, as a name says, 3 year strategic plan and annual operating plan. Uh, in the case of and in both the cases, the key objective is that first to start with, actually, in the case of a 3 year plan, where do you want to reach to? Where directionally where you're going? What are the long term, I would say, plan you have, whether it's in terms of expansion to new market, what kind of a growth the industry is going through. So you put up a very large, high level picture uh, for the organization, and what kind of resources you'll require to reach to those levels. Operating plan by very nature deals with execution. You really look at building up those building blocks, putting those building blocks
Mm,
in the operating plan, so that your 3-year plan, whatever you planned for, you're moving towards that direction. Just to give an example, in the case of Novartis, when we used to work for a 5-year strategic plan, so we used to know that this is a pipeline of products which will be having in next 1 year, 2 years, third year. Because in pharmaceutical, you have a pipeline of products which is known. This
mm,
is the regulatory approvals you'll be getting. Uh, those resource allocation plans have to be designed right now. And say a new brand comes in place, which is in a new therapeutic area.
mm,
How do I start working on today? How do we start looking at resources today in terms of what's going to come in the future?
mhm,
So today's plan also needs to take into account today's profitability, I mean this year's profitability, as well as what resources you're committing right now, which will be helping you for future opportunity which will be coming in place. So that's the one big shift, is that if there is you have a long-term plan, you can start taking tactical actions right now, right here in this current year, to move towards the direction of those 3-year plan. That's one important difference in terms of 3-year and I mean 3 or 5-year strategic plan versus an annual plan. Other important areas are, some of the actions which you take. So if you have a margin improvement as a plan for
mm,
next 2 years, 3 years, say 1%, you can't achieve on that particular anniversary date. It needs to be, the work has to start happening right now.
mm,
Uh,
mm,
so what you do today, what you start sowing today will be reaped tomorrow. So annual operating plan are the starting point for those. And if it doesn't work well, something we call it as, if it doesn't work well, discard it, think differently, do something new. And so annual operating plan also becomes a pilot for a larger strategic plan. So these are the, few of the very new, I would say, specific nuances which I've been seeing and I've been following in any organization. Uh, I would not get into the number planning and all those things, because those are very standard thing, putting Excel sheet, drawing up, things are very, very standard. But that's
yeah.
what these two are the biggest differentiators. And also hiring plans, people, resourcing, capital is a very important area. So if you do you need capital for long term, if you have expansion, like for example, in the case of JSW Paints, we had obviously it was a startup. How much of capital will be required for next 2 years in Cloud9 right now? How much of capital will be requiring for the expansion? So you start planning for that right now, right here itself. Whereas in the case of a mature organization, I'm delving to a mature organization. These things are the requirement of capital is not so intense compared to a startup.
So you actually made a very interesting point. For a 3-year planning to be achieved, you need to take certain actions even in the current ongoing year. That's really brilliant, because that's the way you are going to connect annual operating plan to the short range plan. Um, and the other one, you also made a very interesting note. If you were to achieve something 12 months down the line in terms of a margin improvement, what are you trying to do in first quarter and second quarter and third quarter? So I also have another question around the same thing, about if there is going to be too many capital request, right? It is a working capital request, not necessarily a capex, right? And then you don't have that unlimited resource that is available. How do you ration that as a part of your annual operating plan? So what criteria that you use to really filter it out?
See, in any business, capital or resources or working capital, I'll call it as a resource. It can be in any form. The important thing is that, I mean, as a very simple rule of 4 by 4 matrix, growth, value. I mean, value in the sense of margin, and high growth, high margin, low growth, low margin, high growth, low margin. There's a simple bucket.
Yeah.
Put your whosoever comes for a proposal or whatever business proposal or business plan is there, try to put them into those 4 quadrants. Okay. And obviously, as a finance person, a high growth deserves a high attention.
Got it.
Uh, High margin deserves a high attention, and obviously the low margin, low growth doesn't deserve attention. And the challenge always comes in a place where there's a high growth, low margin, and low growth, high margin. Which one do you prioritize?
Mm,
It all depends upon the what kind of a mix we are having. So you can't put all the eggs in one basket. Neither you can have wish to put everything into one basket. You need to balance out and see what opportunities like. And last thing in this one is that nothing is based on just numbers. It's also based on
mm.
gut feel. You need to take judgmental calls in doing what you're doing, and be agile to do a course correction. That's the most important thing. If it's not working well, no problem. Let's move to a next one. And connecting to that is that we always keep our so-called, as when we do a planning for any such thing, as a finance person, we all train to create a backup plan, plan B, plan C, etc.
Contingencies.
Contingencies, or
Yeah. Yeah.
we call it as a top line protection plan or a bottom line protection plan. So if that the base plan does not work, the second one comes in place to protect something which is not going to be delivered. So
That's
this,
really interesting that I have heard, right? So this is a learning for me. Can you just give through an example? What is this top line protection plan?
yeah. Okay, so this concept I also learned during my days in Novartis. So we used to have a base annual plan which we used to make. Uh, Plus, there are certain opportunities which we were not able to. We don't know whether they will fructify or not fructify,
Mm.
and there is a probability of that happening. Just to give an example, there is I would say, plan to enter into a new market,
Mm-hmm.
a new territory
Mm-hmm.
where the probability of success is only say 50%
Mm-hmm.
to achieve that number. Okay, do we bake into a full-fledged plan, or do we keep it as a separate back pocket plan? So
Mm-hmm.
instead of keeping a back pocket plan, it is always put as a opportunity plan, which is
Okay.
always on the top of the base plan, which we call it as a top line protection plan. So it operates in both the ways, two ways.
Mm.
First way is that your base plan is getting met,
Mm.
and in case the base plan doesn't get met, the top line protection plan obviously comes into picture, and that time you start driving that to the core.
Mm-hmm.
If base plan gets met, top line protection plan also gets met. It's a cherry on the cake.
Absolutely. I
So,
think,
so that's the way to work. And same thing goes with the bottom line protection plan, which we work on. And there's a probability attached to each one of them. We used to also mark with a probability, because if something which is having a 50% or more, I would say 70% or more probability, it is part of the main plan. If it is less
Mhm.
than 70%, that means there is a risk attached to it, so you don't put it into the main plan.
Main
So the
plan.
good thing is
Very
that
good.
your main plan always has to be one which is going to be near achievable.
Mm. That is excellent. Okay. I'm asking this follow-up question so that, it's much more closer to reality, how you operate and lead the way. Many a times when you do this 2 by 2 matrix that you talked about, high margin, high growth, low margin, high growth, those things, there are going to be certain business unit heads who are going to be upset because their plans are not approved by you or approved by the management committee, right? And there are going to be, therefore, frictions or tensions that will be there during this discussion. How do you manage this and still ensure there is a business acumen over there and there is a rationality prevails?
See, the important thing in these two cases is transparency, and everyone knows the resources are limited.
Mm,
So there are, I've seen multiple instances like this. Typical sales team will always come with a most aggressive plan to say, ki, yes, their idea, their plan deserves the resource allocation what they need to do.
mm,
Everybody comes with that. As a finance professional, first of all, I think you need to really validate, constructively challenge those assumptions, whether it's going to happen or happen. Once that
mm,
is there, you are always saying they're aware that the resources are limited. Put them into those buckets, and what happens, continuing with the same thing which I just said some time back. Sometimes, these resources, these plans are not, I would say, approved by the larger committee because of the fact they don't meet those criteria. What we do is that we move them into that top line protection plan, and
okay.
That's one of the other things, which we do is that, yes, there is a plan. Why should we let it go? In case something doesn't work, we can always put up a stop loss in between somewhere and
Move
bring
it,
bring
them
it
to
on.
this plan.
Yes, that's the way to work.
Okay. This is really, really interesting, how it is being managed. Never heard this before. Um,
And then just to add a point, this is one of the important role a finance person plays, finance team plays in this entire, I would say, organization, because this is the team which is fully aware of all these things. The picture and the view as a finance team you get of a 360-degree view of all the businesses, all the team resources. You are the one, and the team is the one which can put this kind of action in place. Otherwise, this could not have happened if somebody didn't knew these things are there.
I also want to talk about one more area where, in addition to how you manage these tensions with the management committee, there are going to be occasions where high growth environment, poses certain danger in terms of governance, right? So, do if I were to take a car example, right, you are driving very, very fast, but driving very fast will get you to reach there early, but at the same time, it also exposes you to risk, right? So in environment, which is a hyper growth, right? As a CFO, are you worried about the velocity of the growth? Are you sometimes worried about certain governance are not followed? How do you tackle this situation? How do you tackle this balance?
A very interesting analogy you brought in place of a car, and it's very reflective of that. So importantly, in a high growth environment, whether it's in a mature organization or even in a startup organization, this is very true that uh, the speed becomes very challenging for finance team to really grasp with. The important thing in this one is that being very close to the business. The moment you are very close to the business, what work they're doing, whatever actions they're taking, uh, if you're a very strong partner to them, you'll start knowing what's happening. The moment you get that comfort, you are able to sense sometimes what's maybe going wrong, what can possibly go wrong. Important thing in this one is to uh, proactively start working with those teams to say, yes, these are the challenges which can happen. I don't want to be a speed breaker, but let me put the guardrails around that one, so
Mm.
that in case there is a red signal which comes when you're not red signal, there is a signal or there's a crossing which comes over there is enough time available for you to apply a brake and not hit someone. That's one
Yeah.
of the important elements you start bringing in place. The key thing here is, I would say, is being close and being aware of what's happening, and this can only come if the business team starts treating you as a partner.
Mm.
Typically, I have seen in my some of my experiences, when you are not seen as a partner, you are seen as a speed breaker, roadblocker. Such problems start happening because then they see you finance not as an enabler but as a I would say bureaucratic blocker. You need to get out of the mindset. And
When finance is seen as a business partner and when they are seen as a blocker, right? So what makes them to shift? Because many of the CFOs who might be watching this might be wondering, right? Hey, I am in the blocker kind of a stage. I want to become a business partner. What's your suggestions to them?
yeah, so uh, what's a business partner? Okay, first thing is that in this one, uh, the one somebody who is able to empathize, somebody who's able to work closely with you. He's your partner. He
Mm.
or she is your partner. Now, typically, all of us as a finance have been always, I would say, trained to think about risk, think about controls, think about processes, which are very important as an
Mm.
organization. But the moment you start uh, talking to the business teams and understand key what they are going through, and how do you, I would say, modify or support them
Mm.
within the framework to meet their objectives, and start supporting them to meet their objectives. to a simple case of even I'll give you one very
Yeah.
transactional example. Like if there is a marketing event happening, okay,
Mm,
and there is a payment to be done. It's a very basic transactional thing. If a payables team is able to process expense or advance faster, they start treating them as a partner. The
mm,
moment they start asking for too many documents or whatever, there's a time taken. It becomes a, I would say, a blocker. They don't understand what problems they're going through. So empathy is most important one. The moment you're empathetic, you start getting trust. The moment you start getting trust, you start becoming a partner. And partnership is not a pill which you eat and then you can getting tomorrow. It's a journey which has to be built up.
yeah. I think.
What we have done in few of our organization, just an example.
Yeah.
First and foremost thing is that physicality of, and these were the days when before COVID, when everybody used to come to office. Okay, I had my FP&A team. I had four-member FP&A team. They used to sit, and we have five businesses, franchises. Each one of
Mm,
them used to sit next to the along with them.
mm,
They will be not sitting along with me or the larger finance team. They'll be sitting with the business. That's the first boundary you start breaking. You are in their house and organization. You are their family member. That
mm.
just breaks the, I would say, barrier first and foremost. And they start treating you as a partner. They start talking to you. They start sharing with you. When they start sharing with you, you start understanding them. When you start understanding them, the partnership starts happening, and then you start solving problems. Obviously, this doesn't end. You need to understand their problems, solve their problems, enable their growth plans and strategy, challenge them as. And the moment you know many of these things, your knowledge becomes so enriched about the business, you start challenging, constructively challenging many things. And
Yeah.
then you start seeing value addition happening, and that's a true sense of partnership, which starts happening.
That's interesting because instead of really talking from the hard aspects, the real ingredients to move from a blocker to a business partner is to start as a foundation on empathy. And because of the empathy, you basically work towards the business goals, as simple as paying their payments on time, or as complex as really achieving a better margin. And then mind share is also important. That mind share comes where they sit. So you house yourself over there, and then share your mind with them all the time, and then that leads to the trust, and this becomes a very virtuous cycle. And then you they will never see you as a different team member. So it's really interesting. That's a good summary. Instead of working on technical aspect, what analytical software you need to put, you need to really put the emotional software first.
Actually, you covered the right point, no, in terms of what people lack is more of EQ. IQ is very much there. It's EQ which plays a very important role, and the moment they start treating them as partners, it's a mutual handshake.
Absolutely. Great. I think that is really good. And Sandeep, this is a question which my friends ask, everyone ask, right, during the discussion, because there is an increasing understanding of a healthcare.
Hmm,
So the question is really that the the cost of healthcare in India is growing,
hmm.
right? And sometimes it is also, come to a point that it is probably not affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your view on it, and how is that healthcare industry is thinking and addressing this?
This is a very important and a very real question, and quite sensitive as well, because healthcare is just not like selling a product.
Mm,
It's a need which is there, and it touches at the most vulnerable moment of anyone's life. Uh, and for anyone's life, what is the price you would like to pay? Okay.
mm,
Uh, Obviously, if you ask anyone, there's no price to pay for that, for the life.
mm,
That's a
mm,
larger perspective. But coming to the point is that the perception that it's unaffordable, it's unfairly priced, or pretty expensive. Okay. Uh, just to give a few facts and perspective is that the there's a lot of in India specifically,
mhm,
there remains a huge amount of demand and supply gap of good quality healthcare.
Mm.
Uh, the total spend on the healthcare is only maybe 3% of our GDP, close to 3% of our GDP.
Okay.
And in mature countries, it's close to 10%. With a lot of, if you look at European countries, it's funded by government significantly. US is quite different, where insurance plays a very important role. India historically has been I would say, mix of private and government funded healthcare.
Hmm.
Even if we look at per capita healthcare's, I would say, average bill or spend is significantly lower compared to a developed country. Now, if you see cost of any treatment or any I would say healthcare services in India, and if you compare with, I will not compare with developed countries. Even with developing countries, we are far lower than what they anybody else will be incurring in those countries. Uh, Reason being, obviously we are very efficient in cost as a country. I would say first,
Hmm.
we are very efficient in terms of doing smart things, bringing things efficiently. Now, it looks unaffordable because of the fact many times the cost becomes more than what a person can I would say
Afford.
actually afford, or even it is not a planned expenditure.
Mm.
It becomes very difficult for someone to meet, and affordability unplanned, this gives a, strong perception about the fact that it's high.
Sandeep, I think that's really good to know, right? About the cost consciousness and frugality in the hospital. I think I even in my own experience, I have witnessed that. Um, I want to understand something around the finance for it, right? Um, how do you set pricing? Is the pricing is a function of, like you mentioned earlier, is it a function of cost, or is this pricing is a function of competition, or it is an interplay of all of these?
You rightly said it's an interplay of all of them. The way we see or have been seeing pricing, and it differs across industries. It's there's no straight and standard rule, but it flows into these two spectrum. Sometimes it's an aggregation of cost and add to that certain margin, which, say, for example, in a petroleum industry, it works like that
Hmm.
because in such cases where you have only two or three players, you can only you can
They can
become
dictate.
they
Yeah.
you can take resort to profiteering. So you need to be adhering to a certain framework uh, where there's a high competition, like in the case of consumer goods industry. It's a question of the market balance, what a customer can pay. If you are charging high and there is a high margin in this product, there could
Mm.
be a slug of players which will start coming in place. Just to give a small example of
Mm.
paints industry.
Mm.
Uh, since last 5-7 decades, there've been 3 to 4 players in the industry. Uh, the margins were very healthy. ROC was high double digits.
Mm.
Very, I would say, very very strong in terms of brand positioning. So pricing was always a easier thing to do, in those industries. Now, when there is a huge margin, it attracts new players. Now you
Mm.
see, two big new players coming in place, Aditya Birla Group, JSW Group, they've entered. Suddenly, this industry is facing the challenge of,
Mm.
competition. So the larger point what I'm trying to make is that the pricing is a function of in a certain industries basis of what customer and competition is putting in place. Second, in some cases you need to be also putting a cost plus margin structure. But larger important point is that no business should be selling anything which is lesser than your cost. Uh, that's
Yeah,
that's the important thing.
yeah.
If you are selling, that means there is certain I would say you're cutting you're actually burning your pocket in that way.
Great. And so when you are designing your team, your finance org structure, how do you go about designing the finance org structure? So, because you have multiple responsibility to tackle. One is ensure the financial operation that is agile, like paying on time or collecting the money on time. And then you are having to publish the financial results in the statutory reporting in whatever the form and fashion that is required. Then you have other responsibility on treasury and cash management, and then above all, the business partnering, the FP&A and business finance. Now, all of these need to be delivered in the most effective manner because none can be compromised. Then it has to be supported by various sorts of things, whether it is a structure, systems, etc. Right? Give us a peek on how do you design your structure and systems.
Uh, there is no, I would say, straightforward answer. It's a, question of the what kind of a that I'll put a framework to it. The organization, what stage it is into. I mean, if we spoke about long-term plan. If my long-term plan is to grow, say, by 50%, and there's an opportunity, you need to start resourcing those people, start planning for those people right here, right now. If there is a normal growth, a Hindu rate of growth, or double than that one, you don't need more people. Most importantly in this one is not the number of people, it's the quality of people, the talent which we put in place. uh, here the role of I would say CFO plays a very important one, to identify right set of people for the right set of jobs. What I've been doing in my career is that I've always rotated people into multiple jobs.
Okay.
The important thing is that if you are handling the same role for long, there'll be no significant, I would say, freshness which will come in place. Validation will go down. People have to move to new roles. So if you are handling, say, accounts, you come to FP&A. If you're handling FP&A, go to taxation. It can be any area. Now, what happens is that in this process, when a new person comes into the role, they start challenging what's happening, start looking at things differently in a fresh manner, start bringing in efficiency, and bring in more value to the role. Plus, in nowadays, all of us are exposed to, and all of us are doing a high degree of automation, wherein you are able to move many of your mundane activities, standard day-to-day reconciliation work or reporting work into a automated system, putting a AI tool on that one to make it more efficient, faster. Effectively, what's happening is that the timelines are getting crunched, expectations are increasing. Uh, so from a finance team, whether it's a accounts team, publishing monthly results. Some companies used to take 10 days, 15 days to do it. Now, how can you crunch it down to, say, third day or fourth day?
Yeah.
And there's a valid business reason for it, because if the performance is known on the third or fourth day, this month is entirely available for you to start taking
Act on it.
actions, act on it.
Yeah.
Correct. And more so on the cost and the margin side and the mix side, because revenue is always known in the first day itself, but many of the cost areas are known only after a gap. And this helps in terms of being agile and being, I would say, looking at the business in a very, very cross-dimensional manner.
Excellent. So you are preparing the company, for more governance focused, despite being it is a hyper growth phase.
Yeah.
I think the company that you are currently with also filed a DRHP, so you are preparing the company for IPO.
Yeah.
What are all the steps that a CFO takes to prepare the company for an IPO?
It's organization-wide change.
Yeah.
Couple of foundational aspects which have to be built up in the organization is, when you file a DRHP, it's a large document which has to be disclosed to the public at large. Most importantly in this one is your entire storytelling, which becomes the most important thing, the story behind the numbers. because numbers are always known, but there is a section on the business which and about the company, the plan of the company, industry overview. That plays a very important role in preparing for the IPO. Uh, Governance, board structure, compliance, guidelines. Those are very standard one, which typically you need to start doing it. Third thing is about your entire internal processes. There are quarterly reports, quarterly disclosures to be given. I mean, financial disclosures to be shared with the investors. How fast this can be done,
Mm.
making your internal processes ready. A lot of disclosures or price sensitive information to be given to the stock exchanges on a regular basis. Any developments have to be shared with the,
Yeah.
I would say, stock exchanges. That means that uh, every important person in the organization should know that these are the implications. And suppose, a simple thing, we were to launch a new center in a new city. Okay, now if this is important information which shareholders should know, you need to disclose that. Okay. Well, which otherwise we would not have disclosed
Would
to
not have done.
anyone.
Yeah.
Like this, there's so many disclosures which CFO and the compliance team have to look at in the business, what all needs to be disclosed. This process has to be then inbuilt in the organization, because the information has to flow to the back to the corporate team for them to go and disclose to the stock exchanges. Uh, last and one of the most important things is the entire culture towards uh, not giving surprises.
Yeah,
The,
I think.
the predictability of the business is important, because while as a company you may not give forward-looking statements, you are not supposed to give, but there is a expectation which gets built up by the shareholders, by investors. How do you navigate through that, manage the expectation,
Mm.
communicate well for them to understand there is a challenging environment, there is a buoyant environment. They start understanding credibility of the management, delivery becomes very important. These are all structural changes which has to be brought in within the organization. Every member of the organization need to understand
Need to
in one way
understand.
or the other.
What is your view on AI and its impact on the business as well as finance?
I think this is one of the most talk about topic
Now.
nowadays. So I think this is a reality of life of every business.
Mm.
From a finance point of view, what I see is that anything which takes any work which
Mm.
takes more than an hour in a day needs to be automated. Automation has two levels. One is doing a standard processing, reconciliation, matching, uh, those job in a quick manner. Second is, how do you build up smart intelligence to it, which is your AI.
Mm.
To give you a perspective of of what we are doing and how it can be done, and I'm sure most of the organizations are following in different way, similar and different way. We do a daily reconciliation of collections. Okay,
Mm.
now that we used to deploy X number of people, now today it's been done by a program coded uh, RPA running in the background. We don't need the person, and it works 24 by 7. It's almost 100% accurate. You don't,
Mm.
and that's the efficiency which starts coming in place. Uh, then if you in few of our business, few of the areas where there is a need for putting intelligence, there are text data like insurance, in the case of hospital, uh, insurance claims which we receive, or payments which we receive, which has a lot of documents attached to it, settlement letters. How do you read through that and convert them into from keywords to reasons for disallowances or payment, etc. Uh, Earlier, someone used to read that one. We are developing a solution to see it can be done in the back end automatically with the system. So all in all, I think this is a reality of life. Most important thing is that how the organization embraces it, and most importantly, how does the team in the organization embraces it?
Okay.
Because the first and foremost impact is on the team which is handling the day-to-day mundane jobs. And In fact, now I'm of strong view that every finance person should know a bit of coding,
Okay.
different applications available in the market, how to use them. In fact,
Mm.
so much so now we have for larger finance team, we have a in-house tech person who is a partner to the finance
Okay.
partner to the finance team, working for all the automation areas, and that's a way of life.
Excellent. It's really, really joyful, and I really enjoyed speaking with you, Sandeep. It's a great conversation that we had, and I learned quite a bit from you in this conversation. I hope those who are viewing this would also have a lot of things to take from this.
Sure, pleasure is mine, and thanks for inviting me and helping me to share my thoughts to everyone. Uh,
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. We will be having more finance leaders who will come into the show and share their stories and their journeys and how they achieved their success. Do subscribe to our channel for you to get an updation on the new episodes. Until then, goodbye.